Wanna travel to America? Cool! But first, you need to secure your tourist visa. And for today's episode, I'll be sharing my tips on how to get approved in your visa application. So if you're interested, then just keep on watching.
For New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can do. Now you're in New York.
To start this video, let's talk about the application fee. The amount is $160. It's in US dollars, so it depends on the exchange rate. But I believe it ranges from 8,000 to 9,000 in Philippine peso. Take note, approved or not, the amount is non-refundable. The visa validity period ranges from 1 month to 10 years and allows single, double, or multiple entry to the United States. It really depends on the consul, but you'll see it once they return your passport. For me, it's really worth it if they give you a 10-year multiple entry visa, just like mine, because if you plan to come back the following year or any time within that 10-year period, then you won't have to apply again and pay another visa fee. The things I will mention here are my supporting documents during my application. Not all of these are required, but it may help if it's handy just in case they ask for reference during the interview. These are additional documents on top of the passport, application form DS-160, your current photo, and your proof of payment. So yeah, let's start with the first one, your show money or your bank statements. This is to prove that you can financially support your stay in the US. Whether or not they ask you to show this during the interview, it's important to bring it with you just in case, because you know, no one wants to lose their chance of getting approved for a US visa. Correct me if I'm wrong, regardless of where you live in the Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao, you really have to be physically present during the visa interview at the US Embassy in Manila. So, you know, the hassle and expenses are no joke, especially for normal Filipinos like me who work really hard for every centavo that they have. The next one in my list is an invitation letter. So let's say you're gonna attend a wedding, or if you have relatives in the US, I think it may help if they can give you an invitation letter to prove that you have a host family or a place to stay in the United States. Next one is a certificate of employment together with your company ID to prove that you have a job waiting for you back home. And if you are a business owner, then bring your business records. You may also bring an NBI clearance to prove that you have no criminal record and have no plans of doing anything illegal in their country. You may also bring your school records or transcript of records just in case they ask for it. Aside from that, it's also very important to bring documents of your assets or properties, as well as your proof of family obligations, just in case you have children or you're taking care of your elderly parents or relatives. So all of these will help you establish the fact that you really have responsibilities in your country of residence and that you really plan to come back. The last one in my list is a travel itinerary with a planned departure and return date. So I advise you to make a list of the places you'll visit and your planned activities. And take note, guys, the maximum stay for tourists is 6 months. So if you're planning to stay there for 6 months and you have no show money, no sources of income, no designated place to stay, then that's very questionable. And the consul will surely ask you a lot of follow-up questions that will put you in a bad position in that visa interview. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. A lot of Filipinos have done that before, and I'm not sure if they're still doing it now. You know, the overstaying, TNT, working under the table with a tourist visa and stuff like that. For sure, you've heard of that already. And I'm not generalizing, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that only Filipinos are doing that. People of different nationalities have done that before, you know, trying their luck in first world countries and starting a new life there. I have nothing bad to say about those people who have done that or who are still doing that, because I don't want to talk bad about people without knowing their stories, their backgrounds, and their life situations in their country of residence. So who am I to judge, right? But at the end of the day, we really have to follow the rules of any country that we plan to visit, whether we like it or not. We really have to follow rules in order to avoid getting in trouble. And if you really plan to migrate or work in any country of your preference, you can. No one's saying that you're not allowed to do that, but you really have to go through the right process. Basically, just do it the legal way so you won't have trouble sleeping at night worrying about the possible consequences of your actions. And we should always keep in mind that all countries have laws that we have to follow at all costs. That's life, and that's just how it works. Now I'll be sharing with you my exact interview or conversation with the consul. So this is how it went. Her first question was, "Where do you plan to go in the United States?" My response was, "I plan to go to Guam." "What will you do in Guam?" "I plan to visit Guam for leisure. I am very fond of traveling and I've been visiting different countries lately." And her next question was, "What countries have you been to?" And my response was, if I remember it correctly, I've been to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, Australia, and United Arab Emirates. And her response was, "Okay, just wait for your passport to be delivered to you." And I said, "Thank you so much, ma'am. Have a great day." That was it, just 3 questions. My interview lasted for only a minute or 2, and the questions that will be asked will depend on your personal background and the information that you presented or put in during the application. I mean the online form that you filled up prior to your interview. And yeah, you have to line up and wait for your turn to be interviewed. If I remember it correctly, there were 4 or 5 rows during my time or during that time, and you can actually hear the interview of the people in front of you. And based on my observations, a lot were rejected, and some people were asked a lot of questions, like a lot of follow-up questions, one after another, and the consul can ask you anything under the sun. Now that you've heard my story, let me share my tips on how to have a higher chance of getting approved in your visa application. So my first tip is for you to make sure that you bring all your supporting documents just in case they ask for it during the interview. In my case, they didn't ask for a single document, but I brought everything there with me just in case. The next tip is to answer only the questions that are being asked. Be direct to the point. So this example that I'll be sharing right now is kind of random, but yeah, it's an example of a wrong approach. Let's say the consul asks you, "Where did you graduate?" The correct way to answer that is to simply mention the university, nothing more, nothing less. But for some reason, some people can't help but mention additional things like, "I graduated from X university, but I also studied abroad in Y university. Then I moved to Z university, stayed there for 2 years, and then some unwanted things happened in my life, which made me go back to X university. And yeah, I kept transferring schools because of family problems and personal issues until I finally decided to come back home and finish my studies in X university." That is a perfect example of a wrong way to answer the consul's questions. And yeah, that kind of answer will surely give birth to make it or break it questions. So my point here is for you not to feed the consul with information that are not being asked, to avoid follow-up questions that might ruin your chances of getting approved. And a lot of people have been doing this mistake, maybe out of nervousness, mental block, or things like that. And I've personally seen or heard similar answers when I was in line at the US Embassy. The people in front of me were asked with a lot of follow-up questions because of their inappropriate answers. It actually felt like a final interview for your dream job. And hearing their answers made me really nervous. But with the help of all these tips, My interview went very smooth and fast.
My next tip is for you to arrive early so you'll be pretty much composed or relaxed during your interview. Avoid coming in late and running around looking so stressed and uncomfortable. My next tip is for you to be polite to everyone at the embassy. No matter how rich and famous you are, keep your feet on the ground during your interview. And this applies not only in your visa interview but in every aspect of your life. We're all created equal and deserving after all. It really pays to be humble at all times. I think it's really self-explanatory and I hope you get my point. My fifth tip is for you to make sure that you have a stable job or a registered business or a valid source of income. When I say stable, that means you should at least be a regular employee. It's a bonus if you've been with your company for quite a long time already because it will give them the idea that you have a lucrative career waiting for you back home, which makes it unlikely for you to do illegal things in their country like overstaying or things like that. So yeah, if you're new in your job, I suggest that you wait a little, maybe until you become a regular employee before you apply for a tourist visa, so you'll have better chances of getting approved. My next tip is for you to make an effort to look presentable or decent during your interview. First impressions last. Place your best foot forward. You'll only get interviewed once, so make it or break it. Next tip is for you to be natural, honest, and confident during your interview. Try to relax and don't make it too obvious that you're nervous so you won't stutter while answering the questions. Try to be very honest to them because they have a record on their computer screen, so it's very easy for them to detect if you're making up some information. And if you're caught lying, that's an automatic ticket to a failed application. Lastly, be professional during the interview. When you apply, be ready for the result. Accept the fact that not everyone gets accepted. I must admit that a lot of people get denied, and you'll see some of them teary-eyed on their way out of the US Embassy. You'll never know. Some of them may have just borrowed that money for the application, and some may have saved really hard for that interview. So it's really heartbreaking to get rejected. Some may have already tried their luck multiple times already but still fail. So it's never easy. Now my message is, whether you get approved or not, don't take it personally. Just move on with your life and try to assess what you've done wrong. And if you don't get approved, I'm not so sure about this, but maybe you can politely ask the consul on why you got denied, especially if it's your second or third attempt already. So yeah, I hope this video can help you in one way or another. Good luck in your application, and if you do get approved, enjoy your stay in the United States of America. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.
Now you're in New York. These streets will make you feel brave.